Hey there, Lorcana lovers, my name's Lizard, and today I'm excited to show you this new Titans Takeover deck. I really enjoy these Titans cards, the artwork is just incredible, and in terms of a theme deck, this deck is really a lot of fun to play. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Let's take you through another Dreamborn.inc breakdown, and then I'll show you a little bit of pixelborn gameplay to really showcase how I like to pilot this deck. So before we begin the breakdown, please guys, for me, leave a comment. Let me know if you're enjoying these breakdown videos. The last few videos of mine have been similar format to this with breakdown and then gameplay on Pixelborn. I have another video I'd like to put out next week with an location control. It's a lot of fun. So if you do enjoy this, guys, I would love it if you'd subscribe to the channel. And like I said, I'll try to continue supplying you guys once a week with some fun decks ranging from casual to competitive, from, you know, some more expensive to much more affordable deck builds. I'll give it all to you, so let me know what you think, and let's get into it. Okay, so I'm calling this deck Titans Takeover. Obviously, I have a lot of Titans in this deck. That's the theme we're rocking with, and we also have Hades, who's commanding the Titans. And Hercules actually fits the theme, because he kind of combats the Titans, but it's fun. So let's talk about this. Once again, we're using Dreamborn.inc, a wonderful website. This deck, immediately you can see up here, is $83.99 to build, so a relatively cheap deck compared to some of the other ones, especially the other decks using the steel ink color. And if you wanted to make this deck cheaper, you could definitely cut the whole new worlds. It does struggle a little bit with card draw, but you could cut the whole new worlds and add in two more of the Merlin rabbits, or there's other amethyst card draw tools that you could also add in place of that. So let's get right into it here. We have 3 copies of Chernobog's Followers. This card's really great because you just get a lot of value. You can play it, quest with it, and depending on your matchup, you can just right away banish it and draw a card if you're sure that your opponent's going to just remove it next turn anyway. So that allows you to, of course, get card draw and guaranteed, 1 lore. We're running 2 copies of Captain Hook. This is an excellent 1-drop card into just about every matchup you could have. We're running 2 of him just because I didn't want to go crazy on the 1-drop cards, because really what this deck wants to do is make it through the early game with some control methods like fire the cannons, ba-boom, and smash, and then hopefully you get into the mid to late game with enough ink to start getting these Titans out and really just start wrecking your opponent. So we are running 2 copies of Hercules, and this is another excellent 2-drop with the 3 willpower. It survives a lot of the steel removal shenanigans. We're running 4 copies of Mr. Smee, my favorite 2-drop in the game, and then we are also going to run 4 copies of our first Titan here, Hydros, the Ice Titan. Just look at that artwork. That's incredible. So much fun. It quests for 2. It does only have 2 willpower, but sometimes this ability Blizzard, Exert Chosen Character, that really comes in handy because you're going to need to be challenging to pop off this combo that I will talk more about in a little bit. So we're also going to run 2 copies of Benja. As a lot of you know, we have a pretty item-heavy meta, a lot of blue-red, and rather ruby, sapphire, and then sapphire steel decks running around, and of course amber steel. So there's a lot of items in those. We're running 2 more of these Hercules. These are acting as shift targets for our big Hercules. So 2 of the 2-drop, 2 of the 3-drop, and then we're running 2 copies of the Merlin Rabbit, excellent card to increase your card draw. He draws a card when he goes into play and when he leaves play. And then for our next Titan, we're running 4 copies of this Lithos. This is an excellent card. You can exert it, and chosen character gains resist +2. This really helps with combos later on to keep your Titans alive. You'll see later we have a Titan character that can challenge and then ready another Titan. So you're able to just have all of these options to continuously ready, say, this Titan, and give resist to other characters and just keep everybody safe. And he himself also has resist +2. Which he really needs because he only has 1 willpower, but he does have 4 attacks, so he is pretty decent running into other characters for removal. All in all, it's best to try to keep as many Titan characters as we can alive, because when you're able to, and you can flood the board with Titan characters and they're lasting. This character comes down and you're just questing for a lot, and your opponent doesn't even realize quite what this card does. Not too many people are playing this Titans deck, so it is a lot of fun. It kind of comes out of nowhere and surprises your opponent. They're not really sure how to play into it. Now, I will say, when you're playing on Pixelborn, this card specifically, you cannot quest with it. If you quest with it, you will not gain the lore. Clearly, there's no lore here, so you have to... there's two options when you hover over it on Pixelborn, and you have to always click on the option that's exerting it, and that's triggering this Cyclone ability. Gain lore equal to the number of Titans characters you have in play. So, obviously, this is a late game card. It is evasive, so it will stay alive, but this is an excellent card to gain a lot of lore quickly. And you will see on one of the games, I continued to quest with them. I still won the game, but I didn't realize that, and I actually messaged some of the people on Pixelborn's Discord to figure out what's going on with this card, and they said make sure you're using his ability, not questing with him. So yeah, that's a great tip for anybody that's going to play this deck on Pixelborn. Next we have our Pyros. This Titan just really wins games for you, especially if you're going into like a wide board, amber steel, sometimes emerald steel. So this Titan, during your turn, whenever a character banishes another character in a challenge, you may ready chosen character. That's any character, so it doesn't have to be a Titan character that you're readying. It can be anybody. So really awesome card. He attacks for 5. He does have 4 willpower, and like I said, when you combo this with the Lithos character and you give him resist, things can just really start to pop off. It's so much fun. And like I said, this could be ready any character. So for example, if you have a situation where you have a few Titans in play, they have something you can swing on, and you also have this Hades card, right? He can exert and ready your Titans characters. So as you can see, we just have a whole lot of combo shenanigans that we are able to do. This Hades card just allows us to do so many cool things, especially if your opponent, like I said, has that wide board, and you can challenge your Pyros. And so you'd want to have a lot of Titan characters in play. You're going to want to quest with them first, and then you can use your Hades ability to ready those Titans, and then quest with them again, and then you can hit Pyros into something, banishing it, and ready this Hades, and quest with them again. You see what I mean? You do eventually set up a board state where you can almost close a game like 0 to 20 lore in one swing. I haven't actually successfully landed that combo, but it is possible, and I can't wait until I get to proper board state to make that happen. The thing that holds it back the most is the fact that these are rather high cost characters, and this is not a ramp deck, so it's sometimes tricky to get these things to survive long enough to pull this combo off. But there's still other combos, like I mentioned earlier, that do work well and are easier to pull off if you have just maybe 2 or 3 in play, and you're able to quest with your Stratos and then challenge Pyros into something, ready your Stratos, quest with him again, shenanigans like that. So really fun. We also, like I mentioned earlier, we have this Hercules card. He's awesome to shift down on turn 4, especially if you have a whole new world and you can just refill your hand. Sometimes that really is the best bet, because you really don't want to miss any of your ink. You're hopefully getting some ink into the inkwell every turn. This guy also has resist +2. He can swing for 6, so there's a lot that he can challenge into and take out in just one swing. So excellent card to have with this. I showed you earlier we do have a lot of the steel removal tools, 2 copies of the Fire of the Cannons, 2 copies of Baboom, 2 copies of Smash, and then we also are going to run some songs. We need 4 copies of Friends on the Other Side. This card speaks for itself. It's just an excellent card draw mechanic. We're running 3 copies of Along Came Zeus. It also plays into the theme, but just a great removal tool. 2 copies of The Whole New World, and 3 copies of Grab Your Sword. This card I would not cut, because that early game removal is key. Yes, it's 5 ink, but you will a lot of times find against, say, aggro decks or even more mid-rangey type decks, this grab your sword just really helps out a lot. And a lot of your Titans characters can also sing this song. So 3 copies of this felt pretty good. And then lastly, we have a location card. This is another excellent tool for card draw, the Queen's Castle. So 4 cost, it is inkable, but what's great about this is it only costs 1 ink to move your characters here. And it's also gaining you 2 lore, and for each character you have here, you're going to get to draw a card at the start of your turn. So that's excellent for refilling your hand. And yeah, so really fun deck. You see we're running 12 uninkables, mostly steel, but we do have the amethyst because, like I said, we need that card draw. And I really wouldn't change much, but I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. If you give it a shot, tell me what works for you. But without further ado, let's go into some pixelborn gameplay. Okay, so once again, I will speed up the playback on these pixelborn gameplay videos just to save time on the video. You guys don't want to sit through an hour-long video, and I'll just commentate on kind of what I'm doing here. Now, we'll start out with the mulligan. You really do want to have like a 1, 2, 3 curve if you can. You really don't want to miss any ink opportunities. You're trying to get ink into your inkwell every turn. So being that we're going to go into an amber steel deck here, we really want to save that Benja just in case they have some flutes or lanterns early on, and we would like to remove that. So you also notice I have Rafiki in this list. I did tweak some things here and there throughout my different gameplay. I wound up cutting the Rafiki just because the uninkables were a little bit clunky, and I just wasn't getting the best value from him. But you see, they've got their Cinderella, always such a tough play to go up against when they're able to get that Cinderella out early because they have just so many removal tools. Cinderella's a 3-cost singer, and right away, he's going to bare necessities me, and he's probably going to take the swords. Yep, that swords would have been really helpful because Amber Steel a lot of times likes to try to get a wide board. So as you see already, look at all these 2-drop characters. That grab your swords would have really come in handy. So let's ink some of our higher cost characters that we're not going to see in play for a little while. Might as well clean up the Cinderella and Quest with our Smee. Now, being that we don't have the Captain Hook in play, our Smee is going to accrue some damage every turn. But that's okay. We will definitely still get our value out of him, even with the damage that accrues on him. So they take out the Rafiki and the Smee. We at least got our 2 lore out of him, so I'm not too upset about that. They don't have any items in play, so really, let's ink the Benja for now. We have another one that we can draw into, and hopefully we'll be able to when we need him. But right now we needed the card draw, so we play the rabbit and see what they have to answer for that. And of course they play a flute right after we ink the Benja. 2 flutes. So that's rather unfortunate, but like I said, we do have another Benja in this deck. So now the question is, should we start to deal with their board, and how so? I do think the Ariel is the bigger threat because she's a Singer 5, and that still leaves us enough ink to bring down a Hercules, and we'll make sure we get 1 more ink in the inkwell. So a common mistake you could make when piloting this deck is to just really go in on wanting those Titans characters out, but like I said, they are much more of a late game tool. So your early game cards, oftentimes you're not playing the Titans, and that's okay. Get to a game state into the mid or later on, and you will be able to start flooding the board with these Titans and make these combos really pop off. So here we go. We are filling our hand up with a little bit of Titan characters. We're going to go ahead and ink the friends on the other side and get our Hades into play. Now they're going to waste a bare necessities, but not necessarily waste it. They will still get their flutes to turn and gain some lore from that. So we draw into another Hercules. We don't really need the 2-drop Hercules, but we could have, inked the Lithos and just gotten a wider board, but I'd rather have him in play to give more questing ability to the Stratos character. Now, you'll see in this game that I was making a mistake on questing the Stratos instead of utilizing his ability, but you'll also see that we just start to pull so far ahead that it doesn't matter. We are still able to win the game, but you see, I stayed at 5 lore, and I should have gone to 7 there. So I'm confused. I'm looking at these cards like, what's going on here? That was definitely a mistake. But luckily, I held out. I still played out the rest of the game. And like I said, I did contact support on Pixelborn's Discord to get to the bottom of that. And you'll see again, when I hover the mouse over that card, there's 2 options. One's to trigger his ability and one's to quest. And you always want to just trigger his ability and you'll gain your lore that way. So there, once again, I quested instead of triggering his ability. But the opponent has not drawn favorably. They do have their flutes, but at the moment, you know, we've got a pretty nice board state. It's gonna require, you know, quite a bit of removal on their end. These characters don't just go down easily with, say, a grab your swords. So, and we draw into some more card draw, which is perfect. I don't really want to refill their hand with the whole new world. So a one-sided card draw is absolutely ideal. Once again, we would have won the game by now had I figured out how to properly use that Stratos card. But even still, we are now in a position where the game's over. But and I didn't really even get to show an example of how this combo could pop off. But I would have been able to show you had I figured out that Stratos. So I would have quested with him and then readied him with my Hades character. But being that I wasn't able to work that out, you know, I just went for it and quested and won the game anyway. Another game against Amber Steel. This deck is actually running the lanterns instead of the flutes. And I do think there might be a few other differences in their deck makeup, but it's nice to show games against some more competitive decks. The Amber Steel deck is definitely, you come across it quite a lot. It's very popular, but once again, we are making sure we have a 1-2-3 curve in our opening hand, and also enough inkables to start this game out, really moving forward quickly. Being that we have the whole new world, we don't really need the Queen's Castle at the moment. However, they could bare necessities you, so having songs in your opening hand isn't always ideal against decks that have means to dump those from or discard them from your hand. Emerald and Amber both have cards that are good for that. So at this point, like I said, we're going to ink some of the Titans characters early on. The Hercules is great. If we can find his shift target, it would be great, because then we could pop off this whole new world early on and hopefully have the advantage where they'd have, you know, more cards in their hand to discard for us, and we'd have less cards. They do find their Robin Hood, which is unfortunate. That card is just so strong and hard to deal with because the best removal tool still isn't quite enough. The Along Came Zeus only does 5 damage, and you see he's got 6 willpower. So it's no surprise that Robin Hood is a very popular card and one of the most expensive legendary cards right now. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and ink the Hydros and just get this Smee out. Start to chip away at this Robin Hood before he gets out of control. And we, next turn, could play the Along Came Zeus. And that way we can banish him without allowing them to also get card draw. If you banish the Robin Hood in a challenge, they're going to draw a card from it. So if you can, it's better to try to deal with Robin Hood without challenging into him. But so now we're in a position where we do have to choose one of these Titans to make some ink with. It's really bad to skip a turn of inking. So we will take out the Robin Hood and go ahead and quest. I'm okay if he challenges into that Smee, because that'll take care of the Queen. They could sing something, though, and take care of him. They had nothing to sing. So now we're in a better position. We can get another 2 lore out of our Smee before they potentially banish him. We'll get the Pyros in play, And that works well too with the Smee if you're able to challenge with your Pyros and ready the Smee and either quest again or just keep him readied so that he doesn't accrue that damage as another combo that you could use there. They do get the beast out, so it wouldn't be a bad idea for me to use this grab your sword to stop that beast from dealing or drawing them any more cards. Once again, when I'm playing against Steel, if I have beast in my hand, like he's becoming less and less useful, especially against Steel decks, because they usually have an answer to put damage on him. Granted, he does attack for 7 at this point, so he is still a pretty cool card, but honestly, I think there was so much hype around this beast card, and it's really starting to die down a bit, especially with the rise of the Robin Hood card, which is just really outvaluing the beast in my opinion. So we're in a pretty good position. We have a character that can sing Whole New World next turn. It would kind of stink to refill their hand, but we have a wider board, and we also have 7 ink, which is pretty decent. They do get the Chernabog. This card I think is going to continue to get more and more powerful. I really think in future sets this Chernabog is just going to be an incredible card. But at this point, I need to decide if I, want to refill their hand or just continue to outpace them here. I'm waiting for them to exert a character so that I can do some challenging with my Pyros and ready one of my characters and either double lore for a turn or potentially double challenge, because you can also ready your Pyros character, which is sometimes what you want to do. I'm okay with them taking out my rabbit. I could use the card draw. Now I'm not pressured to have to use the Whole New World right away, because I do have a card I can ink and I have a card I can play, or 2 cards I can play. At this point, 7 ink is usually enough to move this deck forward. There's nothing in the deck that costs more than 6, and so we're in a pretty good position now to control their side a little bit, and then also just maximize our questing. So here we have the Pyros and his ability. We're going to quest twice with our Smee and pass the turn. I'm not going to worry about challenging into that Chernabog because he is just a monster to take down with that 9 willpower and 9 attack. You could see he respected the threat of my Pyros. Luckily, we drew into this Along Came Zeus, and we're able to clean up that Chernabog, which works out great. And now we're in a position to have lethal on the board, and we will win next turn, unless they have some way of dealing with these characters, which I don't think they do. Nope, so they concede, and that's that. Okay, so this last game is a pretty fun one. We're going up against a Sapphire Emerald deck, which seems strange, but this combination is definitely underrated. It's actually a decently powerful deck. So being that we're going first, we don't really need the Fire the Cannons. That card's much better when you go second and you can take out their 1-drop, especially Emerald if they're playing, say, the Cursed Merfolk. It feels great to be able to take that out before they're able to quest with it. So we're going to ink the Baboom, and we will play the Hercules. Once again, we are hopeful that we will draw into the bigger Hercules, and we do. So let's go ahead and ink the Titan, get some more card draw. We actually have 2 big Hercules to play with here, and we're not going to need both of them. However, that's just more insurance to, have some ink if I need to. So I will ink one of them, and right off the bat we can shift him, and if I wanted to, I could sing a Whole New World, but I've got some valuable Titans cards in my hand at the moment, so I will just clean up their side, leave him in play. His resist 2 is awesome, so his survivability is pretty great, and the kit can't kick him back to my hand, so that's awesome. We'll ink and then play a Titans character here. So I could have, either way you want to, sometimes the sequencing really matters a lot. So you got to think, if you play the Stratos first and then a second Titan, you will be able to then quest for 2 right away with the Stratos, or rather use his ability for 2. So you want to keep that in mind when you're sequencing how your turns are going to go, and make sure you're doing the most advantageous combo. So getting the Stratos down first and then getting your other Titans characters in makes a lot more sense to me. He's going to kick that Hercules back to my hand. That's okay. He's just going to give me more ink to play with. And at this point, I will play that Hercules again, gain my 3 lore now from my Stratos, and take out the kit, and then I can gain 3 more lore from Stratos. Now, I could also potentially keep him readied because his genie is evasive, so he could challenge into it, but Stratos has 4 willpower, so that's not too much of a threat to me right now. But you can see just how quickly you run away with these games when you have this Pyros and Stratos. So he respected that threat and got rid of my Stratos so that I couldn't continue chaining that together with the double lore ability. But luckily, I'm in a really good state here. I could refill my hand if I wanted to, and he just he just gives up. But you saw at that end state there, I was in a really good position to either refill my hand or just continue to clean up his side of the board. What a fun deck to play. I do have more footage of pixelborn gameplay, but this video is already pushing 30 minutes, so we're going to leave it at that. If you guys have any more questions or any questions at all about how to pilot this deck, please feel free to leave me a comment down below. I always read the comments and interact as much as I can. I am a small channel, so if you guys enjoy this, please, for me, subscribe to the channel. You'll be notified of all my videos. I'm trying to do, like I said, a video a week. Next week, we're going to go into a really fun location control deck that I do think is even more competitive than this Titans deck. And yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. So until next time, guys, like always, be kind and have a wonderful day.